Hey, what's happening, Life Group Submissions team? John Mays coming to you from the office today. It's spring break, so we're going to do some fun things with the kids, and I know you're gearing up for an amazing weekend, but I just wanted to stop by real quick and talk about the details of the benevolence ministry, the things that happen on the finance side back there at Central. And I know if you're like me, maybe you don't love the details, you don't like to get lost in the details, but it's important that we understand the details of this system because that allows us, one, to make sure that we are using it and utilizing it to the best needs of our attenders, but also so we can honor our friends at finance. And so right off the bat, we're just going to go through the details and then some of the ways that we can, one, use what we just learned to make sure the process works even more efficiently, and two, some things that we can do that maybe we weren't aware that we could do inside of the process. So when you approve a benevolence request, it starts by you simply going to the goto.lc benevolence approval link. This form stack, when you fill it out, generates an email that goes to an email directly for benevolence. Nothing else goes there. It's only benevolence requests. This makes sure that nothing gets lost in the shuffle of all of our Life Church emails. Now, finance, they've got a team of volunteers, and they will go through that email every single day, at least once. And then when that volunteer team checks the email, they will then generate a check request in Coupa. That then kicks it back to you, the LGLM pastor. You approve it in Coupa, and then that goes back to Coupa. Now, here's the catch. Coupa only pulls those approvals down into their system once a day, and that's at noon. So when that happens, Coupa pulls that information, and then we cut the checks at Central through finance, and they're mailed out that day. So just inherently, there could potentially be, if the stars align, I would say incorrectly, you could have a 48-hour lag simply by you submitting your benevolence request maybe 5 minutes after that volunteer had checked the email for the last time that day. And then maybe you approve it at, say, 1 o'clock the next day, and Coupa doesn't pull that information until noon the following day. Boom, you've got a 48-hour window there already. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything on our end to make sure that we don't add to the lag that's naturally built into the system and naturally built in the process. And so here's some things that we can do to make sure that our vendors are getting the checks in a timely process. Timely process? Timely manner. So we want to ensure that everything's filled out correctly in that form stack. That's super important. When I was talking to Brad in finance, he said this is one of the major things that holds up the process is simply missing the vendor. We'll put in the attender's name, or maybe we just missed that cell completely, or we put in our name. But essentially, finance doesn't know who to pay. And so when they check that email, the volunteer is doing their best to try to figure it out. If we've attached a benevolence application, they'll even try to pull it up on that, but sometimes they can't read the handwriting. They'll do everything they can to not have to reach back out to the campus. But sometimes they have to. And so they will reach back out to finance. Finance will then reach out to the campus. The campus, you'll get the email, you'll respond. This could be a full day's worth of communication that's lost, which will now push that check back a full another day. And that could be the difference between someone's lights staying on and being cut off, somebody staying in their apartment, or somebody being evicted. So slowing down and making sure we're filling out that form stack will really help. The other thing we can do is we can over-communicate with everybody involved, starting with the attender. They're walking in, they're in crisis mode, they're not sure what's coming next. And even when we tell them, hey, we're going to help you meet that need, sometimes they're still not thinking clearly in that moment. And so we want to communicate really clearly. Here is the time frame. It should be about 5 days that the vendor can expect payment. We are taking care of it for you, and we'll handle it from here. And then a best practice is simply to call the vendor yourself. Call the apartment complex, the lighting company, whoever it is, and simply introduce yourself and let them know that you're working with this attender and that they can expect payment within 5 days. This is a great opportunity to show the restorative nature of God's heart through the local church to someone who may or may not attend church or even have a relationship with God. It also allows you to both verbally agree on the expectation for the arrival of payment and to verify that there's no hidden late charges or fees that we haven't discovered through the benevolence process. That way we get the check cut the first time for the right amount. Now, in the event you're talking to the vendor and the standard window of 5 days simply will not do. we can expedite the process. So keep in mind, it's a volunteer checking that email. So if you simply send an email to AP that says, hey, this is urgent, I've got a benevolence request in that simply 5 days is not going to work. They can go ahead and go to that email, pull that themselves, start the process. You can be aware of it. They can then pull the information from Coupa and we can close that 48-hour window. But think about it like this. We only want to use that for emergency situations. While we can do it, imagine you're in the office and you're working on a project or an email or a presentation, something like that, and you're in the zone and someone comes and interrupts you. And then you get back into it and then someone else comes and interrupts you again. It just makes it really difficult. And so finance, they've got their own rhythms. They've got other obligations that they do every single day. And so we want to honor them. They are happy to help us out and expedite those payments, but we want to make sure that we are using our influence, our charm, our negotiating skills, everything we've got in us to lead the vendor to be cool with that 5-day window. But in the event that you can't do that, simply email AP, let them know that you're going to need to expedite this process. And sometimes when you just simply have to have the payment there, like within 24 or 48 hours, it might be appropriate to overnight the check. We actually can do that. Was talking to AP, they are happy to make that happen for you. The only thing is the campus will have to eat the charge for the overnight check, and so that will hit your postage there for your campus. And so those are the things that we can do to make sure that we don't add any time to our benevolence process. Man, there are some great resources available for you guys right there on our staff page. Also, Tiffany and Amy and Jeff did a great video on benevolence. I've linked it into the email. You guys can check all that out. Man, I appreciate you all so much for what you're doing to play a part in helping people find hope and restoration through the benevolence ministry, through the local church. We appreciate you guys. We love you. Have a great weekend, and let somebody know, whoever finds God finds life.